The stars over the council's capital burned bright, their light shining against the glass walls of the great chamber. The day was historic. For the first time, Earth had been invited to join the Galactic Council, a place where hundreds of species ruled together. The wide hall was filled with alien leaders, their robes glittering, their crowns glowing, their eyes fixed on the doors where the humans would enter. Every seat was full, every whisper loud with curiosity and fear. The Council had seen humanity's signals across the stars. They had watched Earth grow fast, too fast for their liking. Yet today humanity came not as warriors, but as guests. The moment was designed to show peace. Alien fleets floated outside the chamber, their ships lined in perfect formation, banners waving across the void. They believed this show of strength would remind Earth of its place. At last, the great doors opened. The human envoys walked in. They were dressed in simple uniforms, not shining robes, not heavy armor, only black cloth with small silver symbols on their shoulders. Their faces were calm, their steps measured. The chamber fell silent as the humans moved forward and bowed slightly. The council smiled, relieved, but not all smiled. One alien commander leaned forward, his four eyes narrowed. His long claws tapped against the table. He whispered to his neighbor, "Where is their fleet?" The others paused. The humans had arrived with only a handful of ships. Old transport vessels, diplomatic cruisers, nothing more. It made no sense. Every species, when welcomed into the council, had brought their fleets to show strength. But humanity had come almost empty. The whispers began to grow. Some aliens thought Earth was humble. Others believed humans were weak. A few, like the sharp-eyed commander, felt unease. "No species grows this fast without power," he muttered. The humans stood at the center of the chamber. Their leader, a tall man with sharp features, looked around calmly. His voice carried with strange weight as he spoke. "We thank the Council for this welcome. Earth comes in peace." The Council clapped, but the sound felt hollow. Questions still filled the air. A scientist from the reptilian worlds raised her voice. "If Earth is so strong, why show us only a few old ships? What hides behind this curtain of humility?" The human envoy only smiled faintly. He gave no answer. His silence was heavier than any word. The chamber lights flickered. For a moment, the massive viewports behind the council showed only darkness, the endless void beyond. Then a faint glow appeared on the sensors. It was nothing clear, only a ripple like a shadow moving through deep space. Technicians scrambled. They tapped on glowing consoles. "There is movement," one shouted. "Something enormous just outside range." The chamber fell still. Aliens turned their heads toward the stars. The ripple stretched across the black, bending the light. Some gasped, some laughed nervously. The commander with four eyes did not laugh. His voice shook with anger. "This is no shadow. This is a fleet." The council erupted. Voices overlapped. Some demanded an explanation. Others accused the humans of deception. A few begged for calm. Through the chaos, the humans stood silent. Their faces did not change. A booming alarm filled the chamber as the technicians struggled. "No identification," they shouted. "The ships cannot be scanned." "They are cloaked." The reptilian scientist froze. Her voice trembled. "Cloaking on this scale is impossible. Not even the oldest empires can hide entire fleets." The human envoy turned his head toward her. His eyes were steady, cold, and calm. Then he spoke in a low voice. "You welcomed us today, but you did not ask who else came with us." The chamber shook. The glow behind the stars grew stronger. Outside, the alien fleets in formation began to shift nervously. Their weapons powered up, but their sensors found nothing. The shadow in the void seemed endless, stretching farther than their eyes could follow. Panic spread through the council. Leaders shouted, demanded answers, screamed for their fleets to fire. Yet their fleets hesitated, unsure where to aim. The humans remained still. The leader finally raised his hand, and silence fell again. His words carried across the chamber, sharp and clear. "Humanity never travels alone." Before anyone could respond, the alarms screamed louder. The technicians shouted in terror. "Multiple signatures, hundreds, thousands, all moving as one." The four-eyed commander slammed his fist against the table. His claws cracked the stone. "Phantom fleet," he growled. The chamber froze. The words cut through every whisper. Legends had long spoken of phantom fleets, armadas so powerful they could vanish into nothing, strike without warning, and erase entire worlds. No one believed they were real. No one until now, the reptilian scientist whispered. If this is true, if these ships are human, then the galaxy has misjudged them. The viewports darkened as something massive passed between the stars and the Council's capital. It blocked entire constellations with its shape. The shadow was so large it swallowed the light itself. Gasps filled the hall. Some leaders stood in fear, others sank into their seats. The envoy only lowered his hand slowly. You gave us welcome, but you must now understand. Humanity has always been here, watching, waiting. The silence that followed was heavier than war. Every alien leader felt the weight of something they could not measure. For the first time in centuries, they knew fear. The lights dimmed again. The shadow outside rippled once more, as if the stars themselves bent away. Then came the final sound, cold and sharp, from the technicians. Unknown fleet entering orbit. They are here! The chamber erupted in screams and shouts. But the humans stood steady, their eyes glowing in the dim light. And then the screens flickered to black. The phantom fleet had arrived. The chamber was in chaos. Alien leaders shouted over each other, their voices echoing through the great hall. The technicians at their stations kept yelling about unidentified signatures, about ships that could not be seen yet moved like a storm. Fear spread like fire through the room. But through it all, the human envoys remained calm. They stood straight, their faces unshaken, their silence more frightening than any alarm. The four-eyed commander who had first raised suspicion rose to his feet. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. This is deception. Humanity dares to play with shadows in our sky. Tell us the truth. What is hiding out there? The human leader did not flinch. His eyes scanned the chamber as though he measured every face. Then he spoke slowly, his voice low but steady. The truth is simple. What you fear is already here. The words froze the room. Every alien eye turned to the viewports, but they saw nothing except faint ripples that twisted starlight. It was like watching water move across the void. Fleets beyond the chamber grew restless. Alien warships shifted formation, their weapons primed, but still they had nothing clear to target. A council elder from the avian species spread his wings in anger. No fleet can bend light like this. This is illusion. A technician shook his head in despair. No illusion. The distortion is real. We cannot scan through it. They are cloaked. Something enormous is hidden. The reptilian scientist from earlier trembled, her scales shifting color with fear. Entire fleets cloaked. This is beyond our technology. No empire has achieved this. If humanity has, then everything changes. The council erupted again. Some leaders demanded the humans explain. Others demanded immediate strikes against the shadows. But the alien fleets outside hesitated. Their sensors showed nothing but strange readings, and firing into darkness could trigger war without aim. In the middle of the storm of voices, the humans stood still, watching. Their silence pressed harder than 1,000 threats. It was as if they knew something the others did not, as if they were waiting for the right moment. The four-eyed commander leaned forward on the table, his voice harsh. Why come to us with only weak ships? Why hide your true strength? Is this welcome nothing but a trap? The human envoy finally answered. We came in peace, but peace must be guarded. You call it shadows. We call it the Phantom Fleet. The chamber went silent. That name carried weight. It was not the first time the word had been spoken. For centuries, whispers had floated across the galaxy of fleets that vanished into void, of unseen ships that struck and disappeared. The stories were dismissed as myths, rumors created to scare children. But now, with the stars bending and alarms screaming, the myths no longer felt like stories. The reptilian scientist's voice shook. If the Phantom Fleet is real, then humanity has hidden its strength for generations. A deep laugh rolled across the hall, coming from a massive insectoid leader. Then they are liars. They come to us as allies, but bring hidden armies. They are not here for peace. They are here to conquer. The council roared again. Fear turned to anger, anger turned to panic. But before any order could be given, the chamber lights dimmed once more. A single sensor ping rang out like a bell. The technician shouted, "Signal detected. A transmission." From inside the distortion, the council froze. A blue projection filled the air. It was not alien. It was human code, encrypted beyond anything the aliens could break. The projection shimmered, then displayed a single outline. It was the shape of a warship, but not like any they had seen. Its size dwarfed even the largest dreadnoughts. Its hull was layered, designed like nothing in their fleets. Its cannons stretched like towers. Its engines glowed with unnatural energy. The signature flashed one phrase: Terran Phantom Fleet, flagship presence confirmed. Gasps spread through the chamber. The alien leaders sat back in shock, their eyes wide. Even the four-eyed commander, who had doubted from the beginning, froze at the sight. The avian elder trembled. "If that is one ship, how many more are hidden?" The human envoy gave a faint smile. "More than enough." The fleets outside stirred. Alien captains shouted through their comms, but their scanners remained blind. They could not lock on. Some fired warning shots into the void, beams of energy vanishing into darkness without striking anything. The distortion rippled stronger, like waves breaking against unseen mountains. One insectoid admiral outside screamed through the comms, "They are surrounding us!" The council fell into silence. The words carried more weight than any sensor reading. Surrounding. The alien fleets realized they were trapped in the grip of something they could not see. The reptilian scientist whispered with horror. If they wished to attack, they would have done it already. Why wait? Why reveal themselves only now? The human envoy turned his head toward her, his voice calm, almost cold. "Because you welcomed us. And now you must decide what that welcome truly means." The council leaders looked at each other. Their fear turned into questions no one could answer. Were the humans here as allies or conquerors? Were they protectors or predators? The silence from the Phantom Fleet gave no clue. The four-eyed commander slammed his claw against the table again. "We cannot allow this. Their shadows threaten us all. I demand we bring our fleets to full power." But before any order could leave the chamber, the alarms changed. A new tone filled the air, sharper, colder. The technicians screamed in confusion. "Something is happening inside the distortion." "The ships. They are moving." Every alien turned to the viewports. The stars rippled again, stronger this time. It was like the void itself bent apart. For 1 second, a faint outline appeared. Colossal structures drifting in formation, like mountains drifting across the sky. Then the ripple closed, and the darkness returned. The insectoid leader's wings shook violently. "This is no shadow. This is an army." The human envoy said nothing. He only folded his hands, waiting, his silence louder than war drums. The chamber shook again, as the alarms screamed even louder. The technicians shouted with panic. "Unknown fleet is approaching closer. We cannot block the signal. We cannot stop them. They are entering system orbit." The last thing the council saw before the screens went dark. Again was a shadow larger than their capital itself, crossing the stars. The Phantom Fleet was no longer whispering, it was coming. The council chamber was drowned in alarms. Red lights pulsed across the walls, warning tones echoed like thunder, and alien leaders shouted until their voices broke. The great hall, once meant for peace, had turned into a storm of panic. Technicians at their glowing consoles screamed readings they could not understand. Ships that could not be scanned. Shadows that moved like predators in the dark. Through the madness, the human envoys stood still. They did not run to the viewports, did not argue, did not panic. They watched silently, their expressions calm. To the aliens, this calmness felt more terrifying than the alarms themselves. The reptilian scientist gripped her notes tightly, her scales pale with fear. She hissed to the council, "We are blind." They move in silence, they hide in shadow. "If this is what humanity has built, then none of us are safe." The four-eyed commander growled from his seat, his claws raking the stone table. "Safe? Do you think they built this to protect? No, this is a weapon. They come as conquerors." Before the chamber could erupt again, the alarms cut off. Silence fell so suddenly it felt unnatural. The air became heavy, as if the chamber itself held its breath. Then, without warning, every console lit up with the same message. Incoming transmission. The technicians froze. "It is not from our fleets," one whispered. "It is not from our world." The council elder from the avian species screeched, "Block it! Do not allow their signal into our systems." The technicians worked, but the consoles ignored them. The message forced its way in, bypassing every defense. The glowing screens turned white, then flickered into a deep blue code. Alien eyes squinted in confusion. The code was human. The projection expanded into the center of the chamber, forming a great circle of light. At first it showed nothing but static, then the lines sharpened, forming the image of a warship. The aliens gasped. It was not just large, it was monstrous. Larger than their dreadnoughts, larger than their defense stations. The ship's hull was jagged, layered like armor built for a beast. Strange black plating reflected no light, as if the void itself clung to the metal. The reptilian scientist whispered, her voice shaking, "This is not an illusion. This is a scan of a real vessel, something transmitting its own presence." The four-eyed commander snarled, "Why reveal this now?" As if answering him, the projection shifted. More ships appeared, one after another, their outlines overlapping, until the chamber was filled with hundreds of massive silhouettes. Each ship carried weapons the aliens did not recognize. Spinal cannons that stretched like towers, energy cores that glowed like captured stars, hangars that opened into endless darkness. The final word across the display made every leader in the chamber stiffen. Terran Phantom Fleet. Signal online. Panic broke again. Some leaders shouted to prepare their fleets. Others argued it could be a bluff. But deep inside they knew the truth. No bluff could bend starlight. No illusion could force its way into their systems. The human envoy finally raised his head. His calm voice carried above the chaos. "You asked where our fleet was. It has answered." The chamber fell into silence again, but this silence was heavier, more suffocating. The aliens stared at the humans, searching for some sign of mercy, but their faces gave nothing away. Then the projection shifted once more. The code lines stretched into patterns, forming waves of sound. A signal began to play. It was not alien language, not words of peace or threat. It was something else, something older. It was a heartbeat, one slow, steady beat echoing through the chamber like thunder. Every console pulsed in rhythm, every light flashed to match the sound. The heartbeat grew louder, faster, filling the chamber with its rhythm, until it felt as though the very walls shook with each thud. Aliens covered their ears, their bodies trembling. The reptilian scientist whispered in horror, "It is not for us. It is for them. It is a signal to their hidden fleet." And then, as if answering the pulse, the stars outside began to ripple again. One by one, colossal shapes flickered into sight. At first they were faint, like shadows breaking through fog. Then the darkness peeled away, and the first true ship revealed itself. It was larger than any vessel the Council had ever seen. Its hull stretched across the viewport, black as night, marked with scars of battles fought in places no alien had ever traveled. Its cannons glowed faintly, but it did not fire. It simply drifted into view, silent, watching. Another ship appeared beside it, then another, then dozens more. The Phantom Fleet was no longer just a whisper. It was real, alive, and present. The insectoid leader fell back in his chair, his wings trembling. "We are surrounded," he said. The Council knew it was true. Their fleets outside, proud and countless, now looked small, trapped in the shadow of human warships. The human envoy finally spoke again, his voice steady, unshaken. "You welcomed us today, but humanity never comes unprepared. Our shadows have been with us all along." The avian elder screeched in fear. "Is this welcome or is this invasion?" The human envoy's eyes narrowed. His answer was quiet, yet it carried like thunder. "That depends on how you treat us." Before the Council could respond, the heartbeat sound returned, stronger, faster. The technicians screamed. New signal detected. Multiple fleets activating. The Phantom Fleet is preparing something. The viewports glowed as the human ships shifted into formation. Their massive hulls lit with silent energy, lines of blue fire tracing across their armor. The shadows around them bent, the stars seemed to vanish behind their size. The council leaders stood in fear, staring at the impossible sight. And then, as the heartbeat reached its peak, the Phantom Fleet unleashed a pulse that rattled the entire system. Every alien fleet outside went dark. Weapons offline. Shields collapsed. Engines froze. The council chamber filled with gasps. Fleets that had once ruled the stars were silenced in an instant. The human envoy did not smile. He only whispered one final sentence before the chamber lights flickered out again. "You wanted to see us. Now you will." The chamber was frozen in shock. The alarms had gone silent, but the silence itself was worse. Outside, alien fleets floated powerless, their mighty dreadnoughts reduced to lifeless shadows. The pulse from the Phantom Fleet had cut through every defense, stripping the galaxy's strongest warships of their pride. Energy cores were dark, weapons useless, engines dead. No empire had ever seen such power. Alien leaders sat stiff, their voices caught in their throats. Some trembled, some clenched their fists in rage. The four-eyed commander slammed his claws on the table hard enough to crack the stone. His voice thundered through the chamber. "This is war. They disable our fleets in silence. This is an act of conquest," but no order left his mouth. The human envoy raised a single hand, and the chamber quieted again, almost against their will. The Phantom Fleet had revealed its power, and the galaxy's strongest fleets were helpless. His calm voice cut through the air. "If we wanted war, you would already be gone. We came here because you invited us. We came because you claimed to welcome Earth." The reptilian scientist leaned forward, her voice shaking. "You mean to say this is peace?" That pulse shut down fleets across our system. That was no welcome. The human envoy's eyes narrowed slightly. That was a reminder. "You asked where our fleet was. Now you know. Do not mistake silence for weakness." The insectoid leader hissed with anger, his wings snapping in frustration. "You cloak fleets of impossible size. You hide in shadows. You bring them here without warning, and you dare call this peace. This is fear. Nothing more." The humans did not reply. Their silence was heavier than words. Then the viewports shimmered again. Outside, the massive warships of the Phantom Fleet moved in slow, deliberate formation. They made no hostile action, yet every alien heart in the chamber raced faster. The ships drifted like predators circling prey, silent, confident, unstoppable. Technicians shouted updates, their voices filled with terror. "Our fleets are still offline. We cannot reboot engines. We cannot restore weapons. The pulse is holding them locked." The avian elder, his wings drooping, whispered, "If this is their power, then we have no defense. The galaxy itself is naked before them." A murmur spread through the chamber. Old memories resurfaced. Tales of humanity's rise had always carried shadows. How they survived endless wars on their homeworld. How they grew faster than any species. How whispers of secret colonies reached beyond the council's sight. Many had dismissed it as rumor. But now, with the Phantom Fleet unveiled, no one dared deny it. The four-eyed commander rose again, trembling with rage. "We cannot allow this species into the council. They are a threat to us all. They come with armies hidden behind veils. They bring fear, not peace." The chamber stirred with agreement. But before anyone could declare opposition, the humans finally broke their silence. Their leader stepped forward, his voice clear and sharp. "Do you think we wanted to hide? Do you think we wanted to build shadows? You forced us to." For centuries, the Council watched Earth from afar, calling us reckless, calling us dangerous. You never trusted us, so we built power where you could not see it. Not to conquer you, to survive you. The chamber went still, his words cut deep. The Council had indeed judged humanity harshly. They had feared them, restricted them, denied them. And humanity had prepared, always in silence. The reptilian scientist, her voice softer now, asked, "And now? Why reveal them now, when we finally offered you a seat here?" The human envoy's expression darkened. "Because welcome without truth is a lie. You ask us to kneel while your fleets stand above our skies. Today we show you Earth does not kneel. His words sent a shiver through every alien in the room. The phantom fleet outside seemed to respond, shifting again, their enormous hulls glowing faintly, their outlines filling the void. The council leaders felt the weight of their own weakness. The insectoid leader screeched in fury. Then we should strike first. If we allow them power here, they will control us all. But his words held no strength. Everyone knew the truth. Their fleets were dead, their weapons silent, their power broken. Any strike would be suicide. The avian elder lowered his wings, his voice weak. We are defenseless. They hold us in their hands. The chamber filled with whispers, fear mixing with desperation. Some begged for negotiation. Others plotted betrayal in hushed tones. But no one dared speak openly against the humans again. Then, as the debate rose, the technicians shouted with alarm. The Phantom Fleet is opening something. New energy signatures detected. A massive structure above Earth. Activating. The viewports blazed with light. Above Earth, far beyond the chamber, a giant circular gate unfolded. Its rings burned with power, twisting space around them. The structure dwarfed even the largest of the phantom ships. It was not a weapon. It was a passage. The reptilian scientist gasped. It is a gate. They are calling more. The council leaders rose to their feet in terror. If what they had already seen was only part of the Phantom Fleet, then what was coming next? The human envoy spoke one final sentence, his voice calm, almost cold. You welcomed us, but you never asked who else might come. The chamber shook as the gate flared to life. A deep hum rolled across the stars, the sound of something massive approaching from the other side. The shadows grew thicker, bending the light until even the stars vanished, and then the first new shape began to emerge. The Phantom Gate had opened, and the council realized this was only the beginning. The chamber trembled as the gate above Earth burned with light. Its rings twisted like fire chains across the sky, bending space as if the universe itself strained under its weight. Alien leaders leaned forward in terror, their eyes wide, their hands gripping the edges of their seats. Even the proud commanders who once mocked humanity were silent now, their voices stolen by fear. The technicians shouted from their consoles, their tones filled with disbelief. Energy readings are off the scale. The structure is not just a gate. It is a superstructure, built with technology beyond our archives. We cannot measure its limits. The reptilian scientist shook her head, her voice trembling. No empire in this council has ever built a gate of this size. To open one requires endless power. Yet humanity, a young species, has built it in secret. The avian elder whispered as his wings drooped. What else have they hidden? Then the gate roared. A deep hum filled the void outside, shaking the council chamber as if it were a toy. Space itself bent inward, folding, tearing, and then something emerged. At first, it was only a shadow, massive, too large for their sensors to measure. Then the light cleared, and the first ship came through. The council gasped. The warship was monstrous, a fortress in the stars. Its hull was jagged black steel, layered with scars that spoke of countless battles. Towers rose from its body like spires, each armed with weapons that glowed faintly with restrained power. Entire city blocks could have fit inside its hangars. Its engines flared with cold blue fire, but the ship made no sound. It moved with terrifying silence, drifting into orbit with slow, steady purpose. Then another ship came, and another, each larger, more intimidating than the last. Dozens passed through the gate, their black armor reflecting nothing, their weapons silent but waiting. The void filled with them, each warship dwarfing the fleets the council once thought mighty. The insectoid leader trembled, his wings twitching wildly. This is not a fleet. This is an empire, the technicians screamed updates. 50 ships. No, 70. Wait, more are coming. Our sensors cannot track them all. The four-eyed commander stood tall, though his claws dug into the table so hard that cracks spread through the stone. His voice was heavy with fury and fear. Why hide this? Why come to us as beggars when you already hold power greater than all of us combined? The human envoy turned his gaze on the commander. His voice was calm, steady, almost cold. "We did not come as beggars. We came as equals. But you never would have accepted us if you knew what we carried. You feared us even when you thought us weak. So we kept our shadows close." The chamber was quiet again. No alien dared to challenge the humans directly. Their power was no longer rumor. It filled the skies above. Then, outside the viewports, the first human warship shifted. Its massive cannons turned, not to aim at the Council world, but toward the alien fleet still drifting powerless. For one terrible moment, every leader thought the humans would fire. The silence stretched long enough to break the nerves of even the bravest generals, but the ship did not fire. Instead, it projected a light across the void, scanning the alien fleets as though studying them. The signal rippled, and for a brief instant, one alien vessel regained power. Engines lit, shields flared, weapons came back online. Then just as quickly, everything went dark again. The reptilian scientist gasped. "They are showing us. They can control our fleets at will." Panic spread again. Some leaders shouted to evacuate. Others begged to surrender. But all voices stopped when the Phantom fleet made its next move. The gate above Earth flared again, brighter than before. This time, the shadow that emerged was not just a ship. It was something far greater. A colossal vessel drifted forward, its hull blacker than night, its shape unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was so large that it blocked out entire star fields. Its central spine was lined with cannons the size of towers, each glowing faintly. Its armored plates looked like continents, scarred with the marks of wars fought beyond the Council's reach. The technicians fell silent, unable to name it. Their screens shook with error after error. The ship was too massive, too powerful for their systems to process. Finally, one technician whispered, "It is their flagship." The alien leaders stared in horror. If the Phantom fleet had a king, this was it. A vessel larger than stations, stronger than entire armadas, drifting into orbit with calm, terrible grace. The avian elder collapsed into his seat, his wings limp. If this is what they kept hidden, then the galaxy belongs to them already. The human envoy looked around the chamber, his eyes sharp. "We did not come to take. We came because you invited us. But do not mistake our peace for weakness. Do not mistake our silence for fear. You asked to see us. Now you have," the four-eyed commander roared, slamming his claws into the table again. "We will never kneel. We will fight, even if it means death." The human envoy did not raise his voice. He only asked one question. "And who will fight with fleets that cannot move?" The words silenced even the commander. Rage burned in his eyes, but fear weighed heavier. Outside, the flagship of the Phantom fleet drifted closer, its cannons glowing brighter, its shadow consuming the chamber itself. The lights inside flickered as its energy fields pressed against the Council world. Then the technicians screamed again. "The flagship is charging something. Power levels rising. It is aiming directly at us." The chamber froze. Every alien leader felt the weight of death pressing down. The viewports shook with light as the massive cannons glowed brighter, hotter, until the void itself seemed to catch fire. The Phantom fleet had shown its face. Now it was showing its power. The flagship of the Phantom fleet charged its weapons, and the Council world stood in its sights. The chamber glowed with red warning lights. Outside, the Phantom flagship hung in orbit like a black mountain, its massive cannons alive with growing light. The heat of its power rippled across the void, shaking the alien fleets that still drifted helplessly. The Council world itself trembled, as if the planet feared what was about to come. Alien leaders gripped their seats, their eyes fixed on the warship's terrible glow. The insectoid leader shrieked, his wings buzzing in panic. "They are preparing to destroy us. They will fire on the Council itself," the four-eyed commander roared, slamming his claws into the table. "We cannot sit here. Even if we die, we must fight," but the technicians shouted over him. "No, the Phantom pulse still holds. Our fleets remain disabled. Our weapons are dead. Engines will not start. We cannot fight." The reptilian scientist's voice was a trembling whisper. "If they fire, there is no defense. The Council will be erased. The avian elder raised his wings, feathers trembling, his voice filled with dread. "This is not war. This is judgment." The humans stood silent, their eyes reflecting the glow of their own flagship's weapons. Their calm expressions unsettled the council more than the ship itself. Finally, the envoy stepped forward. His words were sharp, each one cutting deeper than any blade. "You feared humanity. You whispered of shadows and weapons. You doubted our place among you. Now you see the truth. Humanity carries power you cannot measure." The flagship's glow intensified, its cannons shining like suns. The chamber shook with the force of it, and alien leaders clutched their seats as though the room itself would break apart. The four-eyed commander shouted, his voice desperate, "Enough games. If you mean to kill us, then strike. Show us the end." The human envoy turned to face him. His eyes narrowed. His voice dropped low, almost like a whisper, yet every corner of the chamber heard it. "If we meant to end you, we would not have let you speak." The room fell silent. The glow of the cannons reached its peak, then suddenly dimmed. The light faded until the massive weapons powered down. The energy drained away like water from broken glass. The warship did not fire. It simply stood in orbit, silent once again. Gasps filled the chamber. Some alien leaders slumped in their seats, relief flooding them like a wave. Others were too shaken to speak. The reptilian scientist gripped her chair, her voice filled with awe. "They were never going to fire. They only showed us what they could do," the insectoid leader hissed in fury. This was a test, a game of power. They humiliated us, but the humans did not answer him. Instead, the envoy raised his hand, and the chamber lights flickered again. Suddenly, holograms filled the air. They showed images not of destruction, but of protection. Human warships fighting against threats the Council had never seen. Enormous creatures tearing through colonies. Rogue fleets attacking helpless worlds. In every image, the Phantom Fleet appeared, striking with precision, defending without hesitation. The reptilian scientist leaned forward, her voice heavy with disbelief. "These are records. You fought battles beyond our maps." The envoy nodded. "We defended borders you ignored. We stood against threats you never saw. Our fleet is not built to conquer. It is built to survive." "The guard," the avian elder trembled, his wings folding. "You mean to say you saved us without us knowing? You fought in silence, and we called you dangerous." The human envoy's gaze swept the chamber. His voice was cold but steady. "We built shadows because we had to. Not to rule, to endure. You feared our growth. You tried to chain us. But when your chains break, who do you call to protect you?" "Us," the four-eyed commander growled, but his voice carried less strength now. Rage remained in his eyes, but fear dulled it. "If you hold such power, then why reveal it now? Why bring your Phantom Fleet to our skies?" The envoy's answer was sharp, final. "Because peace without truth is a lie. You invited us into your council, yet you planned to watch, to test, to control. We show you now you cannot control us. You cannot bind us. If we stand among you, it is as equals." The chamber filled with silence again. Alien leaders exchanged looks, fear mixing with reluctant respect. The balance of power had shifted, and they all knew it. Then, outside the viewports, the Phantom flagship shifted once more. This time its cannons did not glow. Instead, a wave of light spread from its core, passing through the void like a ripple across water. The disabled alien fleets outside flickered with life. One by one, engines reignited, weapons powered back on, shields flared to life again. The humans had returned their power. Gasps spread through the council. The insectoid leader stared in disbelief. "They can shut us down. They can bring us back. They hold control of every fleet." The reptilian scientist whispered, "They are showing mercy." The avian elder bowed his head, his voice low. "Or they are showing us chains stronger than any we ever imagined." The four-eyed commander glared at the humans, his voice filled with venom. "Mercy today, domination tomorrow. Do not trust their silence." But before another word could be spoken, the technicians screamed again. Their consoles flared with warnings. "New signal detected. The gate above Earth. It is activating again. Another wave is coming through." The council leaders froze. If what they had already seen was only the beginning, then what would come next? The viewports burned with light as the great gate flared open once more. Shadows moved behind it, larger and stranger than the warships before. The entire chamber held its breath as the glow intensified. A second wave of the Phantom Fleet was about to arrive, and the galaxy had no idea what was crossing through. The chamber shook as the massive gate above Earth blazed once more. Its rings twisted, glowing brighter than stars, bending space like a black ocean. Shadows loomed behind the light, shapes too vast and too many to count. Alien leaders stared at the viewports, their voices gone, their throats dry. Every breath felt heavy, every second stretched like eternity. The reptilian scientist clutched her notes, her scales flashing pale. More ships. The readings are climbing again. These signatures, they are larger than before. Technicians shouted from their stations. Second wave entering. We cannot calculate numbers. Our senses fail at this scale. The avian elder covered his face with trembling wings. The first fleet already dwarfed our armadas. How can there be more? And then the shadows broke through. The first ship of the second wave emerged from the gate. It was not like the others. Its hull was shaped like a crescent blade, long and sharp, glowing faintly with strange blue fire. Instead of dozens of cannons, it carried arrays of gravity wells, machines that twisted the stars around them. It moved not like a warship, but like a force of nature. Gasps filled the chamber. The insectoid leader hissed in terror. That is no ship. That is a planet breaker. More followed. Colossal carriers with hangars that opened into endless darkness. Spinal cannons so long they seemed to stretch across the void. Entire fleets of black-armored warships flowed through the gate, moving with slow, perfect precision. They filled the skies, blotting out constellations. The void itself seemed smaller, consumed by their presence. The alien leaders trembled in their seats. Their fleets had been restored, yet none dared raise a weapon. Every captain knew it would be suicide. The four-eyed commander's claws dug deep into the table as he glared at the humans. His voice was low, bitter. You built this armada in silence. You watched while we fought, while we bled, while we believed we were strong. And now you bring it here to stand above us all. The human envoy met his gaze calmly. We bring it because you asked us to stand among you. You cannot accept humanity without accepting what we are. The reptilian scientist hissed nervously. What you are is danger. You hold power none of us can challenge. How can we ever trust you? The envoy's eyes hardened. You fear what you cannot control. But ask yourselves, have we fired? Have we taken your worlds? Have we enslaved your people? No, we stood silent while you judged us. We stood patient while you doubted us. And still, we stand. The chamber fell quiet again. The truth of his words weighed heavy. Humanity's fleet had shown power, but not aggression. They could have destroyed everything, yet they had not. Still, fear burned in the eyes of the council. The avian elder whispered, "If you bring this strength, then what do you want from us?" The human envoy finally stepped forward. His voice was sharp, steady, undeniable. "We want what you promised. A seat in your council. Not as guests, not as tools, as equals. Nothing more, nothing less." The insectoid leader slammed his claws against the table. "Equals? With this power you are gods among us. How can any empire stand beside you?" The envoy's face did not change. "You mistake silence for weakness. Now you mistake strength for tyranny. We are neither. We are humanity. We do not kneel, and we do not ask others to kneel. Stand with us or stand apart. The choice is yours." The words echoed through the chamber like thunder. The Phantom Fleet outside drifted silently in formation, thousands of warships watching without firing. The alien leaders shifted uneasily in their seats. Some looked at the humans with respect, others with hatred, but all knew the truth. They had no power to resist. The four-eyed commander rose again, his voice full of venom. "You speak of choice, but you give none. If we deny you, you will crush us." The envoy's eyes narrowed. "If we wished to crush you, there would be nothing left to deny." The silence that followed was heavier than any roar. The council felt cornered, trapped between their fear and their pride. The avian elder finally spoke, his voice breaking. "If we accept you as equals, what promise do we have that your fleet will not one day turn against us?" The human envoy looked at him with steady eyes. His answer was simple. You have our word, and if that is not enough, you will have to learn, just as we did, that survival is built on trust, not chains. His words left the chamber in silence once again. Some alien leaders lowered their eyes, already defeated by truth. Others clenched their fists, still unable to accept it. Then the technicians shouted once more, breaking the moment. Something new is happening. The gate, it is not closing. It is expanding. The energy levels are rising beyond safe limits. The reptilian scientist gasped, her scales flashing black in terror. It is not just more ships. Something else is coming through. The chamber shook violently. The viewports blazed with white light, so bright it burned the eyes of those who dared look. Behind the light, a shadow moved. So massive, so vast, it dwarfed even the Phantom flagship. The insectoid leader screamed in disbelief. That is no ship. That is a fleet carrier the size of a moon. The council erupted in terror. Leaders shouted. Some begged to flee, others demanded to fight. But the humans remained silent, their faces calm, watching the light grow brighter, watching their phantom fleet expand further into the void. The envoy's voice finally broke the chaos. It was soft, but it carried across the chamber. You asked if we would stand among you. Now you see how we stand. The white glow from the gate engulfed the chamber, and the shadow behind it grew larger still. A moon-sized vessel from the Phantom fleet was crossing through. Its arrival promising a truth the galaxy was not ready to face. The chamber shook as the massive gate above Earth ripped wider than ever before. Light poured through the void, brighter than stars, swallowing the night sky. Alien leaders shielded their eyes, their voices trembling with fear. They had thought they had seen the worst. The Phantom flagship, the endless fleets, the planet breakers. But this shadow dwarfed them all. When the glow faded, the truth appeared. From the gate drifted a vessel the size of a moon. Its surface was layered with armor so thick it looked like continents of steel. Cities of light burned across its hull, towers rising like mountains. Entire fleets could have hidden inside its vast hangars. Its engines glowed like suns, bending gravity around them. This was no warship. This was a fortress built to carry a civilization across the stars. Gasps filled the chamber. The insectoid leader fell back in his chair, his wings twitching uncontrollably. It cannot be real. Nothing of this scale can exist. The reptilian scientist's voice shook as she clutched her chair. It is not a ship. It is a world. The technicians screamed readings from their consoles. Energy levels beyond measurement. Defense systems layered across every surface. Thousands of weapon platforms. This is a fleet carrier larger than anything in recorded history. The avian elder whispered, his wings trembling. If this is only one of their hidden creations, then what else lies behind the shadows? The four-eyed commander stood frozen, his claws no longer striking the table. His voice was low, bitter, broken. We thought humanity weak. We thought them reckless children. But children do not build this. The humans stood calm, watching the terror unfold. Their envoy stepped forward, his eyes hard as stone. His voice was steady, sharp, unshaken. This is the heart of the Phantom fleet. We call it Haven. It carries our people, our future, our legacy. While you argued in chambers, we built this to endure. While you fought over borders, we built this to protect worlds you forgot. The chamber was silent. Every alien knew the meaning behind his words. This was no fleet of conquest. It was a shield. A weapon, yes, but also a sanctuary. Humanity had built a civilization that could move across the galaxy in silence, beyond the Council's reach, beyond its control. The reptilian scientist's voice was quiet, almost reverent. You built this not only to fight, but to survive what none of us could. The envoy nodded. You see shadows and armies. We see survival. You feared us because you did not understand us. You tried to chain us, yet we endured. This is the truth of humanity. We do not bow. We do not break. We rise, his words carried like fire. The alien leaders shifted uneasily. Some lowered their eyes, defeated by truth. Others clenched their fists, still too proud to accept. But all knew they were powerless. The Phantom fleet surrounded them. Their fleets, though restored, were useless against this force. The balance of power had ended. The avian elder's voice trembled as he asked, "Then why reveal it now? Why show us your hidden empire?" The human envoy's eyes narrowed. "Because we will not hide forever. You invited us here, but you invited us as prey, not as equals. We show you now, we are not prey. We stand with strength, and if you cannot accept that, then you will face what comes after." The insectoid leader hissed, rage and fear twisting his voice. "And if we refuse? If the council denies you still?" The envoy's gaze hardened. His words were simple. "Then your counsel will not matter anymore." The chamber fell into silence. Those words carried more weight than any threat. They were not shouted. They were not screamed. They were spoken as fact, unshakable as the steel of the Phantom Fleet itself. Then the humans turned toward the viewports. Outside, the moon-sized carrier shifted slowly, its massive hull glowing with waves of energy. The smaller warships formed around it in tight formations, their black armor shining with faint blue light. The Phantom Fleet stood like a wall across the stars, unmoving, unstoppable. The reptilian scientist whispered, her voice trembling, "The galaxy will never be the same." The human envoy looked back at the chamber one final time. His eyes scanned every alien face. His voice carried the last words of the meeting. "You welcomed us, and we accepted. But remember this, peace will stand only if you treat us as equals. If not, then you will learn what humanity truly is." The lights flickered. The chamber fell into silence again. Every alien heart pounded with fear, awe, and uncertainty. Outside, the Phantom Fleet did not fire. It did not strike. It only stood in silence, its shadow stretching across worlds, its presence heavier than war itself. Then the gate behind them pulsed again, brighter, wider, louder. The technicians screamed in terror. "The signal is changing." "This is not more ships. This is something else." The viewports shook as the stars themselves seemed to vanish behind the growing light. A sound rolled across the skies, deep and cold, like the heartbeat from before, but louder, stronger, unstoppable. Every alien leader stared into the void, wondering what else humanity still kept hidden. The Phantom Fleet was only the beginning, and the galaxy had not yet seen humanity's final secret.